Dr. Chao Thi Phong Yung from Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City. Dr. Yung, are you there with us, joining with us already? Dr. Dung, Pong, sorry, Tipung. Mas Arif? Okay, we are still connecting with Dr. Chao. And also, I'd like to say hi to Dr. Sulaiman. Are you there already, sir? Oh, yes. I think Dr. Chao, Yung Chao has been there. Mas Arif? Yes. But okay, Dr. Yung masih unmute katanya, Pak. Okay, then. So I think this technical issue. Call Dr. Sulaiman. Are you there with us? Dr. Sulaiman? Right. Sorry. Once again, Dr. Yung, can you hear us? Okay, then. So, right. I think I'd like to introduce our speaker. So, Dr. Yung, she is the Associate Dean of Faculty of English Linguistics and Literature, University of Social Science Humanities. And she gained her bachelor degree from Ho Chi Minh National University in the field of arts, English Linguistics and Literatures in 2001. In 2006, she obtained a master's degree of arts in TESOL from the same university. For her doctoral degree, she holds a Doctor of Philosophy in English Linguistics from University of Leeds, UK. And she is renowned for her groundbreaking research in the area of learner autonomy, English collocations, online collocation dictionary in L2 writing, and technology in LT. In 2021, she awarded the Outstanding Scientific Publication by Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City. And today, she's going to talk about the topic that could be relevant for us, yeah? Finding your research, your authorial voice in research writing. To be more specific, she will share with us how to sound confident and authoritative in research writing, how authorial voice reflects who we are as writers, how it shapes our credibility and authority, and how we can help our students find the balance between confidence and conventions. Let me check again. Okay, she's there already. Hello, can you say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Now, right then, Dr. Yung, we are delighted to have you, and you have 20 minutes or 25 minutes to share your thought. Over to you now. Please give a big applause for Dr. Yung. Okay, right, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makrim, for the introduction. And it's a great pleasure for me to join this conference to share how we can enhance our writing and writing with authoritative. And as I know that novice researcher, as well as you as a lecturer helping your student to write confidently, you might probably encounter the question like, how do I find my own voice in such a very formal writing as research writing? And you can see that in research writing, we need to express ourselves quite differently from other normal writing. And it is my pleasure to share with you as other colleagues in this conference. Now, let's start with a very simple question. What exactly is authorial voice? So you can see that in research writing or in writing general, we expect writer to write clearly, coherently, and accurately. But voice is what makes our writing sound like you, for example. So authorial voice refers to your identity and your stand in the text, how you express yourself as your beliefs and relationship with other scholars in the field. It's what makes people think that there is a real author behind the words rather than just summarizing someone else's work. So if you write like this, in this study, I argue that if you start the sentence like that, it means that you are present and you take ownership of the argument. But if you write like this finding supports my assumption, then you are ready to take your own, stance in your writing. So you can see that in both, the writer not just reporting their writing, but then interpreting, positioning, and guiding the author or readers in general. So we can see that authorial voice is not just, the way we refer to ourselves, but then who is the writers behind the words. We want to tell readers who the writers behind the words. It is about writing to show that it is the balance between being respectful to the readers and being confident about what we are contributing in our writing. So it's about willingness to be visible in our writing. Now, I'd like to invite you to join a quick survey to see and to show your reflection, how you use or refer to yourself in research writing. And please join this post. All right, I hope you can see it now. Right, so I would like to invite you to join this vote in order to see your reflection by scanning the QR code. Okay, so first question, when writing your thesis or research paper, do you use I or we? First one, I'd like to hear some of your voice. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, most of you choose sometimes. And other, please? Always. Right. Okay, so let's start with the next question. Oh, some of you continue. Right. Now let's move on to the next question. Oh, I can't do here. Right. The next question here is that, do you use the first person pronoun to refer to you in your thesis or publication? Yes, no, or unsure. In your thesis, if you're MA students or PhD students, yeah, yes, right. Okay, right. We can see that, yeah, for the previous questions, the answer and your perspectives and practices varies widely. Thank you very much for joining us. We can see that our views change, widely, and that's absolutely normal. It reflects that we are from different disciplines and maybe from different linguistics and cultural factors that shapes how we project. Readers can recognize us in our writing. Right, so let's get back to our presentations here. Right, so the question here before we talk about how to develop our authorial voice, then we need to see why even it does matter. So you can see that the first reason why authorial voice is important because it helps writer to build our scholarly identity. It shows the reader who we are as a writer. So you can see that it shows that we believe in what we said and how we present ourselves in our writing. And the second reason is because we can demonstrate our ownership and originality. Like it is about make sense, how we make sense of the knowledge, how we show our arguments, and how it adds something new to the arguments. And the last reason why authorial voice is important in research writing because it helps engaging, to engage the readers and to build trust. It's convince the readers that you believe in what you say in your writing. And that's the reason why when we write with a clear voice, we do not just inform the readers that what we think, but then we are there present in our writing. And this is a very important part in growing as a research writer, writing with confidence. So let's have a look at this example to see how the author is present in his or her writing. If we write like this, it is believed that learners' autonomy is influenced by culture. So if you start the sentence like, it is believed that. So here we don't know who believes this. The writer disappears. The way we start writing, so we say that the writer disappears. But if we write like this, I argue that learner autonomy is influenced by cultural expectation, for example. So we hear the writers reasoning and their stance. So it's very clear that they are present in the writing. Okay, so the question here is that you can see in a study by Thailand of about 240 research articles written by scholars in 9 different disciplines, and you can see that the research writer, I mean the experts one, tend to use I or we to mention or to refer to themselves in the writing. So they can use them strategically to claim their responsibility, to guide the readers. It is not about informal. So here, this slide gives us a clearer picture of what we mean by authorial voice. So if you look at this one, you can see that on the top, we have a broader category. We have the term like self-reference. So self-reference can be any way that we as an author refer to ourselves in our writing. Could be explicitly or implicitly. So we can use first person like I or my to refer to ourselves, or we can use a third person like the author, the writer to refer to ourselves. And we can also use a word like the study, okay, the paper. It is an inanimate noun phrase or the passive construction. So if you can see here that if we use a first person like I or my or the author, it is called self-mention. And self-mention is a direct kind of self-reference. If you look down in the bottom, you can see the line. And this lines represent the explicitness of the author in their writing. So it means that if you use a I mention or the author, for example, it is kind of explicit one. So when you use explicit form of a self-mention, it means that the author is there, clearly present in the text. But if you use like the study or it's concluded that, so it is another form of self-reference and you hide yourself in the text. So you can say that if we move from the left to the right very explicitly to refer to ourselves in our writing, and we hide ourselves in our writing, it somehow changes in terms of the confidence the author is in research writing. So if we look closely at this table, we can see that the level of author visibility can change gradually. The explicit form like I conclude, we can see that the author is there, present in his or her writing. Or the same here, the author concludes. But if we change our voice by saying like the paper concludes or it is concluded that, it is the indirect form of self-mention. So we refer to ourselves, but then indirectly. So what is the difference here? If you notice the visibility column, you can see that our visibility changes frequently. Okay, so you can see that very visible to very invisible. So we can see that if we can observe a very interesting conflict, If you are explicit, use the word I or we to refer to ourselves, you would sound very personal and confident. But that can feel less subjective. But that can feel quite subjective and sometimes face threatening in some fields. But if you use the word like the paper, it is concluded that, I mean the implicit form of self-reference, your writing appears to be objective and detached, but it can feel like less objective or less authoritative. All right, so you can see that the important question here is that how do we want to sound in our field? Do you want to be objective and detached, or confident and visible? The answer to these questions vary greatly depending on your research fields, for example. And finding your authoritative voice means understand where your disciplines, whether you are from education, applied linguistics, or physics or education in general, or could be in computing, would sit in the continuum of visibility. That is how your slide, how you would sound in your research writing. Okay, so let's have a look at a different layers of the authoritative voice. We can see that in some study of Thailand, we can see here there is a big difference between soft science and hard science. So when we talk about soft science, like applied linguistics or education, so scholars often use the word I or we to refer to ourselves. It is a self-mentioned, devices. However, in fields like hard science, we can have like, I said, physics or computing. So scholars tend to use more of the, use less of the self-mention, because they think that in this particular area, the focus is on, the data and the result, for example, rather than the writer themselves. So we can see from now that it depends on different disciplines, that we might use different, self-reference term to refer to ourselves in our writing. But if we look at the other side, we have cross-linguistics and cross-cultural influences. Some studies shows that native English writers tend to be more comfortable to refer to themselves in their writing. So they use I very frequently to refer to themselves in their writing. But then non-native English speakers, like you can see there, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Spanish, they tend to be rather cautious when they use the I to refer to themselves in their writing. I don't know, you can see in the previous poll that our Indian writers, we often use the I as well in order to refer to themselves. But then you said that sometimes you don't use the I to refer to yourself. And the reason why is because it's not just about the difference in linguistics, it is about the difference in culture. Because according to some scholars, they think that if we use the I to refer to ourselves, it doesn't sound, right, formal as a research writing. And this is a very special genre that expects the writer to be formal and objective. And probably because from the collectivist culture, because I can see that some scholars argue that people from collectivist, culture tend to avoid to refer to themselves too much because it is like, self-centered and not formal, not appropriate for research writing. Right, so if you look at the slide, we can see this is our recent study. This study is a comparative study. We compare how native English writers, they are MA students, and Vietnamese students as well, the MA students, how they use the self-mentioned devices to refer to themselves in their research writing. And you can see that native English speakers tend to be comfortable using I to refer to themselves. They used the I or we to refer to themselves like over 43% compared to only 90% of the Vietnamese writer. And how about at the passive construction? This is the implicit form of self-mention. And you can see that for this particular form, the Vietnamese author tend to use the passive construction because they think that it is more appropriate for research writing. And you can see that they use over 55% compared to 37% of the native speakers. And probably because of they are taught to do so, that formal writing, research writing expect the author to be, formal and objective in their writing. And it somehow reflects differences in disciplines and in culture as well. Right, so we have just talked about authoritative voice. Now let's see how authoritative voice connects with authoritative voice. Are they different or the same? So if you can look at this one, you can see that these two concepts work hand in hand, but they're not quite the same. You can see that for authoritative voice, it is about our identity, our stance to show who we are in research writing. And if we use specific authoritative voice, you can show the, particular stance in the writing. However, for the authoritative voice, it is about to show who is the person speaking. So we can see that we can show that we are confident and credible in our writing and show our autonomy in our writing. So we can see that for authoritative voice, it's often referred to the use of a particular self-mention to refer to themselves. I, or the author, or the paper, or the passive construction, whereas authoritative voice is about, how confident we are in, stating something, if we are confident or not, or we can use some kind of, evidence to prove our authoritative voice. Okay, so we can conclude that authoritative voice makes you visible in your writing. So you want to be visible in your writing, or just, imply yourself, hide yourself behind the words or sentences, or you want to be authoritative, which means that you make yourself believable. So in order to make yourself believable, it's not just about using, a lot of references, but it's about, to show how the references, how the arguments connect with each other in our writing. And that is the difference between authoritative voice and authoritative voice. However, they support each other in the writing. So you can see that not just who you are, but then why the author should believe in what he said. Okay, so what about the common issues with the authoritative voice? You can see that for authoritative voice, it is the overuse of the passive construction, especially for EFL learners or scholars. The reason because, as I mentioned, we believe that, or we were taught that if we use the passive construction, it sounds more formal in research writing. Or the second common issue is the fear of using I in our research paper. We were taught that using I is informal and it's kind of, self-centered. We draw too much attention to ourselves rather than the data or the study. And maybe because of the unawareness of the journals or the disciplines conventions. So we can see earlier that depending on different disciplines, we might have, different view or expectations on how we present, how we appear in our writing. So the advice here could be, for example, the first thing we need to do is to consult or look for information from the disciplines, if it is acceptable that we should be present or not in our field. And what about the problem with authoritative voice? So the problem here is because we might use so many, hatches. So the use of words like may, might, perhaps, for example, they sound polite, yes. But then it could make, readers think that you are uncertain. So then my question like, does the author believe in himself or herself when writing like this? And the second common problem with authoritative voice is that you haven't shown readers your stance or your arguments clearly. So being present is one thing, but then being able to connect the ideas or the evidence together is more important. That shows your stance and your argument. And another common problem with non-native speakers like Vietnamese or Spanish, so Chinese, for example, is that we have a misconception because we think that authority equals arrogance, right? Because we think that authority equals arrogance. So it is not. It is the way that we show our confidence and contribution to the field, not the arrogance. So here, what about the strategy to use self-reference strategically in our writing? We can see that if we overuse the I in our writing, it sounds kind of sometimes informal. But then if we don't use the I in our writing, we might sound, we are not there, we are not present in our writing, we are not visible to the author, to the readers. So readers might think that we are not confident, we don't take ownership or for the arguments, for example. So the thing here is that we need to, learn how to balance and use them strategically. So the advice here is that we can use explicit forms like I or the author to refer to ourselves when we present the main argument or claim. It is at the end, it is like, the end of a writing, or when we describe our methodological decision or highlight the contribution, because these are the moments where the reader expects to hear your voice, your stance, and your position. It is anyway your argument and your decision and your contribution to the field. So you need to be confident. However, if we overuse, self-mention, like I, the author in the writing, we use it all the time, appears every sentence, then it sounds kind of, not attractive, obviously. And we can avoid using too much self-mention when we write the literature review section, when we write a research paper in the literature review section, because this is where the focus is on our studies, not our study. And could be, at the descriptive or the background section when we talk about other study rather than our study. And what about how to build authoritative voice in our writing? So let's have a quick look at these, strategic practice so that we can apply in our writing. The first thing we can do is to strengthen our reasoned and evidence links. Whether we are authoritative or not dependent on the number of references, but depends on how you use evidence to back up your arguments, rather than showing that I have lots of evidence. And the second thing that we can think of is how to use. We can use a clear and assertive verbs. For example, argue, demonstrate, or establish. Now think about this. If we use a verb like this paper argue that, of course, it sounds more decisive than by saying like this paper shows, or much stronger than this paper suggests. It is about how we express ourselves. And of course, we can use the word argue, demonstrate, or establish where evidence allows it to do so. So be confident when writing and use these strong verbs where possible. And the last advice that we can take is the revise for clarity and ownership. So just a small change in the phrasing, in how we phrase or how we word our writing could make our voice more visible to the author. And obviously, it not makes you sound weaker as an author, but then it is a professional way of writing. So I can say that some key takeaways when we write our research writing, it is about authorial, be present in our writing, and authoritative, being confident in our contribution by using evidence and connect evidence with the arguments in order to strengthen our arguments. And you can see that we can use self-reference strategically in order to guide readers through the arguments. So arguments is ourselves, right? It is about our voice. So we're confident to write and use I or the author, and to show the ownership of the ideas. It is your ideas, your contribution, then be visible in your writing. So once you write about summarizing some other, literature review, for example, we can minimize the appearance of the writer. But then when you write about your contribution, your argument, it's absolutely fine. And again, very important, we can make some kind of contribution to our, and originality of our paper by using these words. All right, so these are some of the references for the presentation. It is a combination of the literature about using and finding authorial voice in research writing, and with my research recently about this one, comparing native speakers writing and the Vietnamese speaker writing, for example, in the two corpora. One is about 30 Vietnamese thesis, MA thesis, and the other is about 30 native writer thesis. And thank you very much for your attentions, and I would love to hear your reflection and maybe your experience of how you instruct your student to write their research papers. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Yung. What a very inspiring presentations. And actually, after this, the Q&A will be panel with Dr. Sulaiman. Now I will hand it over to the next speaker, and then will be moderated by Ibu Fadila Zamzam. Okay, please.
All right, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Fadila Zamzam, a lecturer from English department at Tadulako University, and I'll be your moderator for this final presentation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our last speaker this morning. Our last speaker this morning, Associate Professor Dr. Raja Syed Tengku Sulaiman. Hello, Mr. Sulaiman.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator.
Yeah, we're truly
Let
honored
me
to have you.
share my screen.
Yes, we're truly honored to have you with us today, joining us virtually. Before we begin, let me provide a brief introduction to our esteemed speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sulaiman is an accomplished academic at Walalai University in Thailand, where he served as an associate professor in the School of Education. He holds a PhD in physical education from University Science Malaysia, along with advanced degrees from Kasetsart University and Phuket Rajabat University. Let me read you some of his area of expertise. His areas of expertise are in statistic and research in physical education learning management, test and measurement in physical education, track and field sports, kabaddi sport, and rhythmic activities. Right. We're indeed fortunate to have him with us today. Mr. Sulaiman, the presentation will last 20 minutes and then will be followed by 10 minutes question and answer session. Without any further ado, Mr. Sulaiman, time is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, good morning, distinguished guests, respected colleagues, and friends joining us from our session and beyond. It is truly a pleasure and honor to contact with all of you today, even though we are apart, but our hearts share in the same rhythm, right? Today, I invite all of you on a journey, one that begins in the sacred rings of Thailand and extends to every corner of Asia. This journey is about more than the sport. It is about identity, resilience, and connection. Muay Thai in our living heritage is both an art and a science. It carries not only the power of the body, but also the wisdom of the heart. In this presentation titled, Muay Thai Ex-Asian, One Heritage, One Spirit, and One Vision, we will explore how tradition, education, and technology can unite us toward the shared future. So whatever you are in Bangkok, Jakarta, Manila, New Delhi, Hong Kong, Taiwan, or Kuala Lumpur, I invite you to open your heart and let's begin this journey together. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that Muay Thai is more than a sport. It is a living heritage of Thai people. For centuries, it has been passed down from masters to students, generation to generation. It is both a way to defeat and a way to express who we are. To history cannot tell us exactly when it began. However, Muay Thai stands proudly beside the great martial arts of Asia. Kung Fu, Judo, Karate, Taekwondo led the way, Kun Khmer, and Panchasilat. Each art has its own beauty, but Muay Thai carries the rhythm of Thailand, powerful, graceful, and alive. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin fighting in Muay Thai, this is a tradition we always to perform. We call it Wai Kru. Wai Kru is done for two reasons. First, to honor our teachers who have guided us, trained us, and shaped our spirit. Secondly, to show respect to our opponent, to acknowledge that the other fighter is not an enemy, but a partner in the art of growth. We know that during competition, unintended context can cause harm, so the weight crew is also a gesture of policy and goodwill even before the match begins. Ladies and gentlemen, to share this spirit with you, I'm proudly to present the weight crew Muay Thai performed by Muay Thai school students from Bangladesh University. In about 2 minutes, please enjoy the performance. Already at once.
ใช่ไหม
ไปรุ่นไป
ไม่ใช่ไม่ใช่
Câu hỏi cụ thể.